through the lot, now you know I'm coming through. When the growth look good on you, best believe they wanna screw now. I've been trying to climb, devil threw me in the dark. Baby, don't be insecure, you can still go make a mark like blow. Could never let them drain my soul now. Blow. Table turning like doorknobs, wow. Blow. I think I'm about to set sail. I'm a walking, living legend, walking with my chest out. Life keeps dealing me cards, I keep feeling it.
What's going on? What's going on, people? It's G. We're back in the building. You know what time it is. You know what it is. Please, please, please make sure you smash that like button. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're brand new. Today, we're here quickly talking about Edmond Tapsoba, the centre-back from Bayer Leverkusen. He's on the radar of quite a few Premier League teams this summer. Most notably, I think it was reported that Spurs look like they are front runners at this current moment in time. But I know that Liverpool and Newcastle are two other clubs who they have their feelers out. They have their feelers out. So I just wanted to just kind of take a little look at him, kind of a player he is. Would he be a good fit, for Liverpool? We already know Liverpool. Well, let me take that back. We think Liverpool are in for a centre back this summer. I'm tired of listening to reports. I'm tired of listening to journalists. I'm tired of listening to ITKs who don't know anything, to be honest. Talking about Liverpool in for this guy or that guy, or have an interest in this guy, have an interest in that guy, and all these aggregators, that we see on Twitter, social media, and online, and it's just back and forth all the time. But you know what? We're here. They're giving us the content that us content creators need. So why not, give them what it is that they want? And Tapsoba happens to be one of those players. Now, obviously, when it comes to Liverpool this summer, I'm assuming most of us, if not all of us, would agree that Liverpool should be looking to bolster their back line, as well as obviously the midfield. People will say the midfield is more of a pressing area. I think the midfield and the defense are actually two areas that are as equal to each other as anything else. I think the forward line is probably the only area of the pitch that I could say with hand on heart guarantee that's not the area that I'm too worried in, so to speak. And even the forward area, I'm more thinking about the right wing, to be honest with you. I think everywhere else is kind of covered. So that obviously leads us on to Tapsoba and the reported interest that we've had in him. So many different defenders, so many different profile of defenders that Liverpool are looking at. He is a left-sided centre-back, can obviously play on the right-hand side of a back three. If we take a look here, his positioning and stuff like that, in the back 4-3-3 formation for Bayer Leverkusen this season, you can see he's playing as the left-sided centre-back. And then you can see here in the back three for Bayer Leverkusen, this is obviously under Xabi Alonso, former Liverpool player. You can see he's playing in the right-sided centre-back position alongside Jonathan Tah and Piero Henzampe. He's another player, actually. I think quite a lot of fans would like Jeremy Frimpong as well, another player, Moussa Diaby, another player, Florian Wirtz, another player. They've got quite a few players I think a lot of us would, seemingly take. And obviously he's a Burkina Faso international. So, he plays there usually in a back four. And here I'm just showing you he is in a back three again for Bayer Leverkusen, but this time on the left side. So again, versatility. I think that's probably the key thing to kind of show you here is this is someone who can obviously play in those positions, left-sided, right-sided, probably even potentially, through the middle. But I think left or right would probably be, his best positions. Left-sided obviously being the main position that I believe he could play and he can play. So what kind of, type of a defender, is he? If we look here, just a few little bits, about him. He's good in the 1v1 situations. Tapsoba is an elegant and composed defender who excels in 1v1 situations. His acceleration enables him to keep pace with speedy attackers, while he once again shows intelligence in his body positioning to show opponents onto their weaker foot and nullify the attacking threat. Now, in terms of his just general defending, his athleticism, composure, comfort in proactive, high-pressing defensive setups make him a suitable fit for various elite teams. So obviously, if you're putting that towards Liverpool, this was kind of interesting. Obviously, Spurs got the new manager in. Ange, they've got him in now. Don't really know too much in terms of the style of football that he plays. Obviously, gonna have to speak to a Spurs fan about that. But if I'm looking at it solely from a Liverpool and even potentially a Newcastle kind of setup, Liverpool more so because we play such a high line. We're notorious for playing that high line, and we're going to need fast defenders, but we're also going to need defenders who are kind of got the IQ got the IQ, and I feel like he's one of those. He seems like one of those defenders. Watching a few of the highlights of him, from this season, especially under Jabi Alonso, in the way that Jabi Alonso plays, I feel like he could fit. He could potentially fit. I mean, he's got the profile. He's got the profile. Again, it all just depends on whether he's going to be good enough or not. But I think one of the main things, and this is something that I read, earlier, Tapsola's body is usually square to the ball when he receives possession. This means his body is more open, and consequently, he has a wider range of passing options available to him. He carries the ball in the same manner, striding forward in an open body that makes it hard to predict where he's going to direct his passes. For me, you guys already know, I've spoken about other centre-backs. I've spoken about centre-backs in general. I've spoken about the centre-backs that Liverpool, have at the club. And that is one of my main things. That's one of the key things that I'm looking for, in anyone who's going to play left-sided, anyone's going to play right-sided. Are you comfortable on the ball? I'm pretty sure that most, if not all, the defenders that we're going to have there, they can all defend, give or take. Do you get what I mean? I mean, some are going to be better than others. Some are going to be, real defenders, kind of, defend first. And that's absolutely fine. There's a position for you. And I think that's in the center of a back three. But if we're going to be using this back three formation, I do believe that your left-sided and right-sided centre-back should be players who are comfortable on the ball, comfortable taking the ball out to wide areas, comfortable playing with possession, of the ball in those wide areas, but also equally being comfortable in defending in those wide areas. I've spoken about Konate, how I don't feel that he is a good defender in terms of defending out wide in those areas. It's been shown. We've seen it already. Is Tapsoba that defender? I'll let you guys kind of decide that in the comment section. Do you think that he's a defender? For those who've watched him, for Bayern Leverkusen this season, those who've watched Bundesliga this season, or just even watched him over the past few years, or who watch African football, do you think he is that kind of defender? Now, the stats tell you that he is a defender who is quite comfortable defending out there. That's just the stats. Watching him play, again, what I more get from him is just how comfortable he is on the ball. And because we don't have defenders like that, bar Van Dijk, I think that's just something that I immediately, get drawn to, is defenders who are comfortable, on the ball. So, that is one of the main things I do see, with someone, like Tapsoba. Looking here, in terms of like him retaining possession, rather than being tasked with progressing the play from the back, Tapsoba is entrusted to recycle the ball from deep and retain possession while under pressure. He is composed on the ball and is often able to use his physical presence to resist opposition challenges. Again, retaining of possession. Do I feel that we've got left-sided and right-sided centre-backs who do that? No, I don't think so. I think with, say, someone like, again, Konate's not an on-ball type of player. He's just defend, give the ball to the other guys, which again, I always make sure I say and get people to understand. That's not a problem. There is a position for you on the pitch. And if your role is to just defend, first, then that's absolutely no problem. But where we're trying to play this kind of new way, using the back three in the way that we're using them, I feel like you're going to need to get someone a bit more comfortable. It can't always be just leave the two defenders back there to defend by themselves. Yes, if they've got the physical attributes, they will be able to do so. But ultimately, when we're on the ball, they then don't really become useful, if I'm being totally honest with you. And obviously, we know with, Andrew Robertson, the fact that we're looking at left-sided centre-back, that should give people an indication in terms of where his future may lie for Liverpool, in terms of he's not really the right fit anymore. 29 years of age, so he's obviously getting on in terms of his age. Now, 29 isn't old. It definitely isn't old. In football terms, it's still not even really that old. But for the type of player that he is, for the manager that you play for, it's very old, if I'm being totally honest with you. Once players get to that kind of age in a Jurgen Klopp team, it's not really good signs, if I'm being totally honest with you, because of the intensity that we need from those kind of players. And Robbo's someone that he only brings intensity, to his kind of game. So we need someone who can retain possession. We need someone who is comfortable on the ball. We need someone who understands where they need to be on the pitch on that left-hand side. They can't always bomb forward. They need to be able to have that discipline. Again, that football IQ. Does Robbo have it? I don't really think so, if I'm being totally honest with you. Even when, and this is again looking at his passing, even when attempting longer passes, Tapsoba's instinct is to find his teammates at feet rather than punting the ball in the air, which obviously reduces the risk of Leverkusen turning over possession. Again, I just think of Robbo straight off the rip, someone who But if you're playing him in that left wing back position, again, I guess that's the role. That's what Klopp is asking of you. Now we can look at it. The stats will probably tell Robert got so many assists and stuff like that. Yeah, playing that way, and bringing that level of intensity. That level of intensity kind of dropped last season. Now might just be a one season thing, just like with Fabinho, just like with Trent, Van Dijk, a lot of other players. It might just be that one season thing. We don't really know. But would you want to wait a season to then find that out? Or do you not just want to get the players in who can do exactly what it is that you are asking of them? Instead of having to wait, at least those other players can then get themselves more climatized with what the manager's asking them. And also, if they're only used to this one formation which they've been playing for the last 5-6 years for some of these players, at least then it gives you the option to be able to change. The changes are going to be so drastic. It's not going to be like we're going from this 3-2-2-3 formation to, I don't know, 6 at the back or something. It's not something ridiculous. It's just going back to exactly what Liverpool are used to actually playing. So again, Tapsoba ticks those boxes for me when it comes to. I love a ball playing centre back. I love them, and sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. But it all depends on the formation. It all depends on the style of play that you're trying to implement for your team. I think every team kind of needs one in today's football. I think you need at least one if you're playing with a back four, of course. Two could help, but they got to be really, really good defenders, at that. But I think having one, in that back line, and then the other guy being kind of the actual destroyer in the back line, I think it works. When you got a back three, you do need two, in my opinion, which is the left sided and the right sided. For us, it's weird because Van Dijk, who's the central defender, is the ball playing defender, and both the left sided and the right sided are not. So yeah, it is a little bit weird, but ultimately that's just the way it is. Obviously, if you look here at the heat map, as I've said before, obviously this shows kind of his versatility, being able to play the left-sided, right-sided, centre-back positions. Again, when we look at these kind of things, what I love the most always is the sheer fact that I'm not seeing, one side where he's completely bombed up down the wing and finds himself in these kind of forward areas. That's really noticeable for me, when I see these kind of things, because again, when I'm looking at Robbo, I'm like, you know what? You're too far down that side. I just don't really get it. I don't understand why you're over there. We shouldn't need, you to be in that kind of position. Hopefully, if we get in someone who's maybe not as good going forward, so to speak, but is just comfortable in all areas, I think then that will maybe negate the fact, negate that, having that left-sided centre-back potentially bombing forward. But again, it all just kind of depends on how Jurgen Klopp sees it and stuff like that. And obviously this here is just obviously showing, just in a bit of a deeper detail, left-sided centre-back, right-sided centre-back in the back three. He's played there 32% of the time this season. 66% of the time is obviously the left-sided centre-back. So again, these are the signs. These are the signs that, in my opinion, Jurgen Klopp is showing that he doesn't feel comfortable with that left-sided centre-back, if I'm being totally honest with you. He should also be looking at the right-sided, but I think he's going to try and persist with Konate this season. So, we'll give him the season to kind of see. But I'm not really happy with that. I think it's both left side and right sided. If Liverpool want to be able to get themselves back into the top contention, you should be looking at both sides as opposed to looking at that right side. Konate should be playing as the centre back. Whether you drop Van Dijk or not, to me, is irrelevant. If he's good enough, he plays. If he's not, he gets dropped. It's just the way of life. It's football. That's how we should be operating at all times. And obviously, this is just his other metrics in terms of, successful take-ons. He's in 0.59, he's in the 94th percentile for centre-backs. Progressive carries, 1.46 a game. Progressive passes, 5.76. Passes attempted a game. Even his pass completion, even though he's in the 63rd percentile, 86.4, per game. It's really, really good numbers when you're looking at it. So, look, on the face of it, it looks like that looks like a decent player. Again, this season, or the season just gone, 47 games, 2 goals, 2 assists. Really, really good numbers in terms of the amount of games. That's what I'm looking at. Mostly playing a lot of games for Bayern Leverkusen, this season, meaning he's readily available. Doesn't look like it's a player who's going to get himself injured too tough. Might have had a few niggly injuries here and there. Haven't really looked too deep into his injury history, but going off the back of, the season just gone, he does look like a player that might potentially fit, what Liverpool are trying to do, in this kind of new phase. Do you guys think that, this is a player maybe that we should be having on our watch list? Is this a player that you think could, do a job for Liverpool moving forward? Obviously, we're linked to so many different left-sided centre-backs, so many different right-backs, so many just different defenders in a general sense, and they all seem to have quite a different different skill sets kind of thing. So here today we've got someone who I would put kind of in that mold. I'm not saying he's as good as, but in that mold of the Inacios, where they're not extremely well. I think he's quicker than an Inacio anyway, and he's stronger than an Inacio, but he's also quite comfortable on the ball. Inacio, I think, is a bit more comfortable on the ball and can pick out those passes, those key passes, thread the eye of the needle kind of passes. I think Inacio has that in his locker, whereas Tapsoba, not to say he doesn't, but he's someone he's just comfortable on the ball. You know what I mean? And he can defend in that kind of area, and he's comfortable bringing the ball out of defense, just like an Inacio or like a Levi Colwell. So, you know, we're linked with all different kinds. So let me know what you guys think in regards to Tapsoba. Obviously, as I mentioned before, I think more Tottenham might be the front runners for him. They do look like the club who potentially at this moment in time, at the time of this video anyway, again, things might change by the time I post out this video, but they do look like the club who are most likely going to get him. Let me know what you guys think in the comments about Tapsoba. I'm G, and I am out.